again. So, of course, immigration has been a big topic for a while. Even more so nowadays that people are getting all sorts of deportations and such. So I thought I'd talk about it. So let's start back. Earliest, what would be considered immigration laws? The Naturalization Act of 1790. In 1776, we have the Revolutionary War, or we end the Revolutionary War. We go through the whole business of building the Constitution up, etc. And it starts to become a question, well, who's the citizen? We have all these, Congress is based on number of people living in an area. People can vote if such and such. So we got to find out who's a citizen. So this gave the basic citizens' rights. White people had to be living in the United States or in the territories for at least 2 years, and had to be of good standing, whatever that means. Whatever that means. Like I said, they were against drifters a lot. If you actually read the Constitution, some of what it says, they were against people just wandering around, influencing things, causing trouble, then moving on. Because that was happening in Europe a lot. And so there were, I don't know, not necessarily professional, but habitual rabble-rousers in Europe. And so we didn't want that here, so we made certain things like, you had to own land to vote. People say, oh, only the rich got to vote. A lot of people owned land. It was largely you had a vested interest in the local community if you wanted to vote on local affairs. So good standing could be that. It could include not having been in jail. Different things. Right? What is quote unquote good standing? We don't know. Jump forward to 1798 Alien and Sedition Act. This is basically we can deport foreigners during time of war. And basically three incidents led to this. We had 1776 to 1795, we had the Cherokee-American Wars going on. And the Spanish were supporting the Cherokee. 1785 to 1793, we had the Northwest Indian Wars, and Great Britain was supporting the Northwest Indians. And 1798, we started the Quasi-Wars with France, stuff going on in the Caribbean there. And so 1798, they passed the Alien and Sedition Act. Basically, we can kick you out if you're from a country, still have citizenship in a country, I should say, which is supporting our enemies. Because it didn't allow them to just kick citizens out. It had to be foreigners still. Now then, you may have seen the meme going around. It pops up from time to time online. It costs less money to send a person to Harvard for a year than to send them to prison for a year. So we should just send prisoners all to Harvard. There's problems with this meme. Back in the 1800s, there was a similar meme. It costs less money to buy someone a boat ticket to America than it does to put them in prison. So European nations were sending their criminals here rather than locking them up. So eventually, at the 1882 Immigration Act, this one more federalized immigration. The others were federal laws, but it wasn't like we didn't have a federal bureaucracy to back it all up as much. And this basically, we went to prevent paupers from coming in, so people who are poor. We want to prevent criminals from coming in, and also certain illnesses. We don't want people dumping their diseased, plague victims or whatever. Tuberculosis was one of the big ones. So basically, can you support yourself? Do you have family here already who can support you? Do you have skills to get a job? That was the main things basically going on here. Which again sounds good. Then we jump forward in time. The 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act, which took the some of the national standards off, so nation of origin wasn't as important, but it did want the skills. It still put emphasis on we want skilled people here, so you still had to prove that you could get a job, basically. And according to all the lists I could find, that was the latest I could find. Now then. Okay, let's jump back. We just talked about some of the Indian Wars. There were no Native Americans, or there are no Native Americans. What do you mean by that? By their own histories passed down verbally, almost every tribe in America admits that they conquered someone who was here before them. So the whole argument of, well, you came and you conquered them and therefore it's their land, give it back to them, stop complaining. No. They conquered someone before them, so they have no right to it either. Sorry, that's truth. That's history. That's their history, which no one wants to listen to. I mean, people went around, they asked them, they wrote down what they learned, and someone said, this is Europeans writing this, so it's no good. Well, yeah, it's Europeans writing it because the natives, Americans, the American Indians weren't writing it down themselves. They were passing it down orally. So we wouldn't have their histories if it weren't for Europeans writing them down. And so people saying, well, you can't complain about all these other people coming in. Well, yeah. Yes, we did conquer, just as the American Indians conquered the people who were here before them, we conquered them, and this new wave of immigrants coming through who are just ignoring our laws, etc., are, let's call it what it is, a conquest, or an attempted conquest. That's not me being racist, that's me being equal. Everything's the same on all this. Anyway, so, yes, there's this video I saw. Guy was interviewing an illegal immigrant. Yes, there are illegal immigrants. And he was talking, he was an online influencer back in his home country. He was not from Mexico or I don't think he was even from South America or Latin America. So this is someone who went to Latin America because it's easier to get into America across the southern border than it is to do the paperwork and get here from their own country. That's one thing that should be considered. Illegal immigrants, we don't just hate Hispanics or Mexicans or whatever. It's people from all around the world are filtering into these countries to try to get here illegally, not learning our laws, trying to conquer us, basically, because they just want to enforce their own laws. And I'm not going to harp on that too much. I'm just going to repeat it a couple times, though, because, we have to think of it in these terms. But he's going on this video about how he paid $3,000 to get here, so it's time for us to pay him. How does that work? We don't have to support you because you paid to get here. Supposedly he was a thriving online influencer, but he took all his content down before he moved. So we can't even check that up. He claimed he was making good money as an online influencer. And his big plan was he was going to move to New York and become an Uber driver. Because that's what we need more of. Now, my big question to that is, where are you going to get a car? Because Uber doesn't give you cars. So that's it, back to the 1882, he would have been kicked out without question. My plan is for you to give me money so I can buy a car and get a job in an already overbloated industry. No, he'd be gone. Anyway, so I just said there is such a thing as an illegal alien. Yes, there is. There are no illegal people. I keep seeing yard signs with this crap on it. Yes, there are. Well, no, my mistake. There are no illegal people. There are illegal aliens. Now, last trip over to the United Kingdom, I needed a visa for the first time ever. So I applied for a visa, got one. If I had gone without a visa, I would have been an illegal traveler. I would still be a legal person, an illegal traveler. I would actually, alien just means foreigner, so I would be there, I would be an illegal alien if I had gone there without a visa. If I had stayed beyond the, actually my visa's still good, I can still go there for another year and a half, I think. But if I stay there for longer than my visa allowed, then I would be an illegal immigrant because I'm basically trying to establish some sort of residency there illegally. Still a legal person. So this whole, there is no such thing as an illegal person, yeah, I agree with that. You're trying to bend the issue, though. It's not whether you are allowed to live. You have a right to live, yes. You don't have a right to just go wherever you want. That's what illegal immigration and illegal aliens is about, is being where you shouldn't be because of whatever the laws are. Fact of the matter is, people with these yard signs out, the only people in the world claiming that, well, only people in America, let's say, claiming that some people are illegal are the pro-choice group. They're the ones saying that unborn babies have no right to live because, it's a parent's choice what to do with their body. That is the only people. And all these yard signs, they also support women's right to choose. So yeah, you got a double standard going there. Don't talk about no person's illegal and then turn around and say, oh yeah, babies don't matter. Anyway. So, speaking of my travels, Canada. Last 2 times I went up to Canada, they wanted proof I had a place to stay, proof I was planning on coming back to America. Why? If immigration is such a great thing and we shouldn't be questioning it, why does Canada get away with being worried that I might stay up there longer than I intend to? Know someone who moved to the Philippines, had to have proof he was planning on leaving the Philippines. He worked around it. Basically worked the system. He's planning on staying there for longer than they intend. He found a workaround. That's illegal. He's going to be an illegal alien or illegal immigrant possibly if he stays there too long. It's wrong. I don't condone it, but I don't condone illegal aliens coming into America. Especially, Canada complains about me wanting to stay there for a certain amount of time or wants proof I'm not going to stay there too long. Why can't we do the same with people at the southern border? I don't know. Double standard, yes. Along those same lines, if I do take a trip to Mexico, people will tell me there are neighborhoods you shouldn't go to. Americans aren't welcome in these neighborhoods. Which, yeah, I agree, there are neighborhoods I wouldn't want to go to, high crime areas, whatever. But, to that extent, if I were to go up to someone of Latino descent, Mexican citizen, whatever, and say, look, don't go to this neighborhood, it's full of rednecks, they won't like you. Somehow I'm the bad guy. I'm giving the same friendly warning that I would be given if I were to go to Mexico, but it's wrong for me to even suggest that a third party might hurt someone if they go to a certain neighborhood. Somehow, I'm still the racist, even though I'm trying to help them. So there is a whole big double standard with the southern border going on here. Yeah, I would love for, we go down there, we obey your laws, you come up here, you obey our laws, we do our thing, we go back home. I'd have no problem with an open border that way. We don't have it. We don't even have it up in Canada. I have to question. I've never, I have to find some Canadians and question them. Do you go through the same thing to get across our border as we go through to get across the border to go into Canada? Or are we a lot nicer about letting you in without questioning you? Are you planning on leaving? Speaking of Mexico, I saw an article a couple years ago. This is back during Trump's first term, I believe. They put up a piece from the Berlin Wall. You could get those. And this is going to be the big monument we're putting up here near the border. Americans, you're as bad as East Germany was. You're as bad as the communists were. You should let people in. Actually, the Berlin Wall was more to keep people in than to keep people out. I mean, they didn't want us sending spies and stuff in, but they also didn't want the residents fleeing to the west. So my question now is, your big symbol of the Berlin Wall, it's supposed to embarrass us when actually shouldn't you be the embarrassed person with this going up there? I mean, you've got people who don't want to live there because your country isn't as good as they would like it to be. And you're happy with them leaving rather than trying to fix your problems. That's a relatively good question to ask. No one asked it. Why aren't you fixing your problems instead of complaining that we aren't letting people flee from you? I would like, fine, let's have more of the people coming up here telling the problem with the country in Mexico. Because you used to have to do that. Back when you took your citizenship oath, one of the things you were basically doing was denouncing your old country. It wasn't phrased like that necessarily, but it was basically you're taking an oath to follow the laws of the United States, and your allegiance will be with the United States and not with your former country. You are in fact denouncing them, even if you weren't actually using the word denounce. And I've heard people telling their stories about how that was a tough moment in their life because they came here legally, went through all the classes, took their citizenship exam, and then when it came to take the oath, they realized, yes, I'm basically giving up my past life. And it was a hard thing for them to do, but they did it. As opposed to, I'm just going to come here illegally, and I'm going to live by the same laws I was living with before. Expect the civil rights. Now that is one question I've looked up. Do illegal aliens have civil rights? And I have found several websites which say yes, they do, because the Constitution protects all people. Now, does the Constitution really say that? No. Has there been a court case on that? I believe I saw, years ago, I think I've heard there has been. None of these sites that I looked at recently have referred to any court cases. And as long as we're talking civil rights, let's talk about common law. Because people want to come and they want to ignore common law, but they still want to live here. If you're going to ignore common law, you don't have civil rights. in my opinion at least. It's all or nothing. If you're going to come here and live by our law and be a decent person, yeah, I'm happy to have you here. Yeah, you should have come here legally. You should have applied legally. But, if you're doing it without really negatively affecting anyone else and you're obeying the law, I'm all for it. However, we've got actual court cases where they're saying, well, this person's just following their old culture, and so we aren't going to hold them to our standard. We've got people arguing, it's wrong for us to try to influence someone else's culture. Their old culture is more important than our current common law. If that's going to be your argument, which people have made, then they don't have civil rights. Sorry. Not me saying it, it's me being equal. You either follow the law and have civil rights, or you disobey the law and don't have civil rights. And if people are going to support your disobeying the law, they can't argue, well, he has civil rights. No. Sorry, I don't buy that. Come here, be a decent person, live by the law. Sure, I'll give you civil rights. I'd prefer you were here legally, but as opposed to people coming here, getting a government exemption, and then disobeying the law, no, they should be thrown out. So yeah, I will take illegal aliens who are obeying the law over political refugees who are disobeying the law. Now then, are civil rights being violated? That's a question. That's a hard question to answer. See, according to the Biden administration, when they were letting people in, we've got their names. We've told them we expect them to come back here for a hearing. So there you go. That's due process is being met by that. They were told they were here illegally. What's your crime? You came across the border illegally. Yes, you are going to have to answer for this. We have your name. If this is a truth that we were told, then ICE had this whole big list of people who came here illegally. So they were not just going out and pulling people off the street as they've been portrayed as. They got lists of names. Supposedly the government has them somewhere. So, is that what's really happening? Is ICE going through and looking up these names that were collected by the previous administration? We don't know. No one's covering this. It makes sense. The whole people are being pulled off the street has never really been proven. No one's given any proof. No one's given a good video of it. It seems to be something that someone made up. Give me more factual proof of it instead of just claiming it's happening. Because, like I said, I gave a scenario where, yes, they have lists of names, supposedly, given to them by the previous administration. So if you want to blame anyone, Biden's as much to blame as Trump. Yeah, I know, that's not going to be a popular thing, but why not? Now, back to Mexico. So why don't people want to stay in Mexico? Why doesn't Mexico want people going back? So we had the big caravan a few years back, started down somewhere in South America, and just more people joined, and it was just this large group headed for America. United States, I should say. And they had to pass through Mexico to get here. Now, one argument being made, because people, they're seeing, okay, Trump's cracking down, let's stop the journey, let's go back. And I've seen people arguing, well, this is just damaging the countries they're coming through. Well, yeah, they're doing that the first time. This is why they don't want them to go back. Mexico doesn't want people going back. They've been through one time and they left their garbage, their trail of garbage and whatever else. Because they didn't care about Mexico any more than they cared about the United States. So they passed through, did their thing. Mexico suffered for it. So now, okay, we're going to send them back. Mexico doesn't want them going back through a second time. And if that's okay with people, because people are making the argument, why are we making Mexico suffer? Because not all of the illegal aliens are Mexican. Well, why aren't you complaining about Mexico not wanting to go back through a second time? Obviously, there's a problem with these people. Mexico doesn't want them. Their home country doesn't want them. They're still citizens back there. Remember, they haven't taken the oath. They haven't denounced their old country yet. They still have citizenship in their original country. But a lot of them are saying, we don't want to bring them back. Why? If you won't bring your own citizens back, why should we want to keep them? Yes, we do have proof that some of them are, in fact, members of cartels, drug gangs, whatever. So we have every reason to not want some of them in. Again, the immigration process was intended to be a filter system to keep criminals out, partially. Those criminals were mostly Europeans when it was, back in 1882 when it was first looked at. So it wasn't a racist system. Now it's all about racism, even though we still have pretty much the same standards. We want people to have a job, or have family here, or have a skill. We don't want more Uber drivers. So that's what people aren't looking. We have to be sympathetic towards these people because, well, no, their country should be sympathetic for them. Send a donation for their countries to build it up so that people don't want to leave. Don't let them dump their garbage on us. And people are going to say, oh, you're calling the immigrants garbage. Well, some of them are. Yes. If you want to come here, you want to follow the laws, you have a job, you have a skill, fine, come. If you want to come here and sell drugs or traffic in human, kidnap people, make them sell themselves for money, and which you're going to take the money from them, you aren't welcome here. And that's a lot of what's going on. We have laws to try to filter these people out. We aren't following these laws, or we weren't at least. We started to at least. But people complained when we started following the laws. So yeah, I have nothing against immigrants if they're here legally. I have nothing against the illegal ones if they're actually going to follow the law and, start doing right. But we have to have a method to get rid of the illegal ones. The ones who are illegal, as in they're going to start breaking the law as well as being here illegally. And if no one's going to help us do that, then we have only one choice, and that's to start getting rid of all of them. That's it. Like I said, this isn't about racism. I have nothing against people being here legally, of any race. It's when you come here and you try to change our laws on us and you start complaining because I'm following our law and you don't want me to. I'm not supporting your law. You want, your culture has you following different laws and which allow you to actually get away with crimes against people who have been here or have been trying to build things up nicely. Yeah, I'm against you. And when the rest of the world starts looking at it like that, which Europe and United Kingdom are starting to because they're having these problems too. They got the activists who want a two-law system, one for the immigrants, one for the citizens. They're starting to question it. And now suddenly they're all racist because of it. No, racism's actually giving someone a leg up just because their culture. Oh, we can't insult their culture so they can rob you. Which is happening. Not every immigrant is a thief, but enough are, and we have laws to stop them. Yeah, that's about it. I think I said everything I wanted to say, and now I'm just going off on a tangent here, or railing here. So I'm going to end now. Have a nice day. Stay home if you don't belong here.